Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Scrambling and Rambling podcast with your hosts, Becca and Greg. I am not Becca, I am Greg. Becca, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Greg?
Oh, we're all just getting by, right? So,
We were actually just talking about how we just say, like, I'm doing well, whether we mean it or not. We just say
when,
it.
and we never mean it, but we're all here, so we're excited about that. We are going to keep it quick like we always do. We don't want to waste your time. We want to get right into our guest, who is Becca, who we got today.
Well, I went to go write an intro, and then I actually found one online that I'm going to read.
Oh, you're
Yeah,
cheating. I love it.
that I think is it's a great little intro. So, today's guest is Gabaccia Moreno. Gabaccia Moreno is a first generation Mexican American multidisciplinary creator, consultant, and passionate outdoor advocate, exploring responsibly wherever life takes her. She holds a BA in theater and anthropology from SUNY College at Buffalo and an MA in performance studies from New York University. Having grown up in Veracruz, Mexico, to a family of hunters and ranchers, gave her an appreciation for the land and its wildlife at an early age, one that prevails today. Her works, whether artistic, creative, or entrepreneurial, have always intersected with the social and environmental issues that surround her. Welcome, Gabaccia.
Thank you. That's a warm welcome. And I was trying to think like, ooh, what intro was online? And yeah, I think I wrote that.
Yeah, that's actually on your website. So it felt like a safe one to use.
Thanks.
But is there
Yeah.
anything that you feel I missed? Any aspects of identity or anything that feel important to you right now, aside from what I've already said?
Well, everything you said is still true. So as you started reading that, I was like, ooh, when is the last time I revised that bio? And all the things are still true. Plus, me has definitely embarked, all the versions of me, have embarked on new outdoor adventures. So currently working full time as a social media manager for Our Bound USA. So thinking about like other identities within the outdoors that are kind of new, but also true.
Where do you find the
Amazing.
time?
Right?
Whenever I have to pay bills, I find the
There you
time.
go.
Exactly. That's a great motivator is rent,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is
but I
funny because I was
am.
going to ask, I know you wear many hats. Like I know you are kind of like all over the place. And so I was wondering what you were up to these days. So, yeah, how are those jobs going?
Uh, I mean, really fun. I feel very privileged that I get to pursue things that are of interest to me. Like, I think especially with the social media world, that can be such like a negative space for a lot of people to
Hmm.
navigate. And at least in the ways that I am engaging there really full time right now, I feel like there's a lot of potential and wonderful connections happening, and I still get to enjoy being there. And
Hmm.
I,
So great. I know you've done also a lot of work with like outdoor like advocacy and stuff. Like, is there anything you're working on now, or have you done other things with outdoor advocacy and like working with kids? Like, what has been some of your experiences like that with that?
yeah, so I feel like this is also a full circle moment with me because of about 5 years ago, I joined the Outdoor Opportunity Coalition as a founding member. And what we are doing as a coalition since day one is trying to create the political momentum to create a national outdoor opportunity fund, which is really inspired by state level policy, most commonly known as outdoor equity funds. They exist in New Mexico, Colorado. California has had one, I think it's frozen at the time. Nevada, North Carolina, different states have created a version of this grant making program, which is really to support access to the outdoors for youth that have been historically underserved and haven't had the access to the outdoors. So in the times that I wasn't directly working with youth, I have had the privilege of being part of this coalition, which has allowed me to, do the whole advocacy trail of like going to DC, sounding like a broken record, but just really trying to land to the powers there be the need for funding that is specifically dedicated to bring the youth who do not have access to the outdoors for all the benefits that all of us sitting in this conversation already know that that the outdoors can provide as we develop into the full human adults that we all try to be at our age.
What are the, I mean, obviously there's a ton of challenges for people who don't have access to the outdoors. What is like the top three things that would help get more access? I'm guessing money is one of them, but what else can people do to help bring the outdoors to more people?
Oof. I mean, I think resources, obviously, always, because being outside safely requires gear, and we all know that. That's a given. But there are also, I would call them cultural opportunities, right? I think and we've heard this now a lot for a long time, or maybe I just hear this in my bubbles, but representation matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's it starts with, yes, representation in the media and marketing and that kind of thing, but it really goes to representation within power structures and who is making the outdoors happen, right? Like who's designing the gear, who is um, financially responsible for these companies or these organizations that are creating the narrative of what the outdoors are in our culture. So I see the cultural opportunities, and then there's always the power of the invite. I would not be a ski instructor today if a friend hadn't said, I'm gonna get us an Airbnb, just get yourself a ski pass and I'll teach you to ski. So it's the power of the invite is so crucial to me because in the same way I've been invited to learn new outdoor skills, I've been able to invite others then to learn those skills once I have them. And that gets people who have never thought of themselves doing these activities into new passions and new pursuits and new lifestyles. And that to me is so magical to see. Not because they're a great fisher person or whatever, but because they've incorporated the outdoors into how they relate to life. And that's power, because then they care about the outdoors, and then they also take care of the outdoors and start eventually getting on the advocacy side of things, right? Where we are all together fighting to preserve the rights of nature.
That was so beautiful. That was such a good point too. Like the power, I think of the power of the invite. Like that was something I didn't hadn't thought of, but that's so true. There's so many activities I enjoy, like climbing. I got into climbing because I was invited and I would never have gone on my own, you know? And I think that's, yeah, and now I love it. Oh, I love that. Have you always, what was your journey with like your relationship with the outdoors like in the sense of like, have you always felt very connected to the outdoors your whole life? Was there a moment or a person who kind of led you into understanding that connection? Um, yeah.
Yeah, I would say I'm very lucky that my parents my parents were outdoorsy, so growing up, my dad in particular was super involved with local conservation efforts in the place where I grew up. I grew up in the south of Veracruz by the Coatzacoalcos River, which at the time was the most polluted river in the world. So for my community, the effects of pollution and climate change, even though we didn't really have that vocabulary then, were always felt and present, but because our town heavily economically relied on the oil industry, there was kind of that tension of our economy depends on our land being trashed. And growing up, I always heard the stories because my dad was a hunter conservationist when I was little, but before that he was just a hunter. And he told me at some point he realized I've probably overhunted my stay. I've
Oh.
hunted too much where I he's like, I'm here to introduce people to this and facilitate it for others, but I'm not going to go hunt ever again, because he got to hunt in an era where you would go and be successful anytime. And he got to see how that success rate kept going down, 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 right? So I grew up with that mindset of like, leave it better than you found it. Don't take more than you need. And yet amongst the tension of like, we know we live in the most polluted river in the world, but like, we won't really do anything about it, question mark. uh, and so I feel like that really shaped me. And one of my strongest like memories growing up of like being outdoors and just knowing that like this is a special place for me was because growing up in Mexico as a brown woman, you face a lot of colorism. And so I was always, people always had to comment on the color of my skin. And it was like the worst thing that could happen to a child who's just like trying to be a person that's accepted and feel belonging. And I remember going on a hunting trip with the family and, just being outside for, I don't even know, like 5 or however many days. And I didn't even shower every day. I didn't have to do my hair every day. Nobody commented on the color of my skin. I could just be free. And I hope I can find this journal sometime, because it was like the first journal I ever had. And I remember writing like, this is the best place. I get to be me. And so from an early age, I just knew that like nature could like hold me and embrace me and like welcome me and not judge me by how I looked, which felt like a very important thing in the society that I grew up.
Getting back to the hunting side of it, hunting is a very controversial thing in a lot of places where, some people think of it as, you know, while as other places you talked about the conservation side of hunting and how, done correctly, it really goes a long way towards, self-sustaining and things like that. So can you speak a little bit more about how your father kind of taught you the conservation side of hunting? Did you get that from him, and how did that inspire you moving forward?
I definitely got it from him, and interestingly, I got it through his personal storytelling, right? Like I just mentioned, he grew up when you could go hunting and you could have a success rate all the time. Over the few decades before I was born, he got to see the decimation of the environments, also due to logging. And then obviously, there's the illegal poaching side of things that is far more complicated than just people taking animals without a permit, 100%. And so I grew up with the understanding that you shouldn't take more than you give. And so, whenever we would go hunting, like I always trained to go hunting with the family, but actually growing up, I never uh, took a chance at harvesting an animal, because every time we would go on a hunting trip, I would feel like my cousins were more excited about that. And like, well, once somebody got a deer, do I need to get a deer? Like, we're all gonna eat
Mhm.
this like, we have enough food for half of the year for the family. So like, I always kind of had that awareness. And like, the only time I went hunting, And I I had an animal on my line of fire. I had I actually had it was a buck, and my dad told me this is the biggest deer we've ever seen here. This is wild. Everyone's gonna be so jealous of you, like yada yada yada. And then I had the doe like come and stand in front of him between me and him, and I was like, oh no, sorry.
Mm,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So that's a sign. And now when I started hunting again a few years ago. And now when I approach hunting, and as okay, now when I approach hunting, I'm also thinking about teachings from several indigenous storytellers that I've been lucky to kind of learn from through story. And there's a lot of that relationship piece where when an animal is here for you, they'll let you know, and when they're not, they'll let you know, and like just like listening for that consent for your survival. And so I realized, like, back in that day, I mean, I got a very clear sign: this is not for you, this is not for anybody, let them go. Over the past 4 years that I started turkey hunting, I never had an opportunity, and when I had the opportunity, it was so clear, it was so powerful. And this is, for me, hunting is important because it's part of how we've evolved, how we've survived. It's a skill that we can need for our continuous survival at any moment. And so I feel like it's worth preserving through the lens of conservation, of not taking more than we need, not taking more than we can give back. So on the land where I've had the privilege of harvesting a turkey for survival, and survival, not that like if I didn't hunt that turkey I wasn't gonna eat, but in the kind of primal relationship to hunting,
Mhm.
in the land where I was able to harvest that turkey, I'm not going to go back there for a while. Right? This is like my way of ethically approaching the giving and taking. So my person is removed from that land to give that land a break from me. It was a beautiful experience. I'm forever grateful. Taught me so much. Highly emotional also. We've had a celebration full of tears and mixed feelings. This is exactly it. It's something that you're not supposed to take lightly. We all live to help each other survive and thrive, right? Like when we perish, our remains are supposed to feed back the earth. And when you are a hunter, you have the unique opportunity of giving an animal the most painless death they can experience, because dying in nature is brutal. For
Sure.
anybody who's seen any documentaries, uh, seriously, it's
Yeah.
you're being eaten alive most of the times, or you're just being decomposed as you die. It's brutal. So I feel like as a hunter, you have a privilege, you have a responsibility. And that's the lens that I approach hunting through, thanks in part to what my family taught me, but also thanks in part to being open to receiving lessons from indigenous leaders and elders who have preserved more of the philosophy behind those relationships with nature.
That I noticed you called them storytellers, and you refer to your dad as a storyteller, and I know you are a storyteller, and I wonder if what you see is the connection between storytelling or even any other creative endeavors, and like between that and like outdoor advocacy, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really have words for this, but even going to college for theater was just me believing in the power of storytelling. And in college, I was very lucky that in my theater department, it was pivotal to think about how you could use your craft for the greater good. and what are the stories that needed to be told to inspire action in people, so that as an audience member you're not just a bystander, but that you have something that you can act upon. So that was kind of embedded in my personal life story, the education that I chose, just kind of following the passion. But even to today, I think about the power of story as something that we need to go back to, because that was, I mean, the knowledge was preserved to story, right? Like, that's why theater exists, so that we could tell the next generation what to expect, how to act, how not to act, what to avoid. Same with art. And, you know, when I think of visual art, same. We've seen these stories on ancient walls. And the way that story evolved through the word, it became something so academic that is so hard to reach for some. And for me, like, returning to the power of storytelling through the personal story, so important, just to help each other find those mirrors, right? Like, where I can relate to you, where you can relate to me, but also looking through windows you never thought you would have access through.
We have more ways than ever to actually tell stories now. And people are telling stories all over the place. But now you mentioned indigenous people and how they, taught you about the land and stuff. And I don't want to say that too many people are telling stories, but are the right people, not are their stories not getting out? Like, is it harder for certain people to get their stories out, whereas, I mean, I'm an idiot on the internet and I can just go on Instagram and say stuff. It doesn't mean I'm helping society, but like, are we missing that right now? Like, the stories told from indigenous people, like, down through the generations, that helped survival on land, and then we're talking about TikTok dances and stuff. Like, is it degrading to that point? Like, do we need more people advocating and telling these stories, but from a different perspective? Maybe, I don't know what I'm asking. I'm just.
I think I gather your question. I think, I mean, the quick answers is like, yes, we always need more diverse voices speaking to the same stories, or not the same stories, but through the same themes, because then we get to see through different lenses. But on the other side, some stories are sacred and are not going to be on Instagram, and can only happen if you sit 12 hours with an elder, or 8 hours, or 4 hours for lunch with someone that will generously offer those stories to you. And some stories are also not meant to be shared. And we have to be okay with the whole spectrum of that. And also, we have to be self aware of the space we take, and how much space we can then create for the stories that can be shared to be shared, right? Through the platforms that we have access to.
It's kind of like using the conservation ethics of hunting, but applying it to storytelling. Like, maybe in a sense, right? Maybe like sharing what you should share and holding back when it's not your time to share, or, giving space to someone else.
Absolutely. And I think there's a cultural element to that as well. In what I have experienced of American culture is like, our individual point of view is so important, then we tend to center that a lot. And when you start thinking more collectively, you realize, well, actually, my point of view is nothing, and that's okay. And so, how can I hold a both and, how my individual point of view adds on to this collective, right? And what are then, how can then shift the storytelling in a way that's impactful positively towards more a collective lens, a collective way of being, um, in relationship with each other. And again, I'm just echoing indigenous knowledge here.
Sure.
Cannot take credit for any of this. So just grateful for the connections that have allowed me to start thinking more about that relationship to each other, to nature, to wildlife, um, versus the westernized take on humans at the top and everybody below that.
Do you find like recently, because I know you're busy, you're doing a lot, and you're like you've I'm trying to think of there was an expression I was about to use that just completely slipped my mind, but basically you've worn many hats, you've done a lot of things. Are there like methods of storytelling that you yourself gravitate toward that you enjoy? Like, is it writing, is it theater, is it painting, or yeah.
I have too many. I have too many attractions to too many methods of
I had a
everything.
feeling that was the answer.
Oh gosh. So I would say more so I go through phases where I am gravitating towards one more than another. And also I haven't always shared all of those methods as much. So I know I love writing, and I have used my blog and my Instagram page to kind of do some of that reflection in a shared way. When I was doing theater, that consumed my entire life. Plus, I had to have 7 jobs to support it. So that was fun.
Classic.
um, and I also really enjoy visual art. So I love watercolors and I love ink and I love just playing with different uh things. And storytelling, like I said, some is just for me, and some I think, all right, maybe someone else can find something helpful here. If I learn something, maybe someone else can learn something too without having to learn the rough way.
Sure.
Now, going back full circle on that, though, how has your background in theater and storytelling helped with your advocacy work?
Oh, I think it's helped me dream big around it. I think it's made me really accountable to what I sign up to do or how I sign up to work. Because if anything, the theater taught me the ethics of collaboration and accountability to each other, because it's a highly collaborative environment. If everybody doesn't show up, it doesn't, like, it might still happen because we are that resourceful in that space and we figure it out. But I think I get to hold all of those lessons wherever I go. And I was also, I say I studied theater general because I couldn't choose like acting or directing or set design or costume design. So when I studied it, it was more of an independent study where I got to do all of the above. And again, because that just builds my empathy for all the work, and it helps me really value the collective forces that make a production happen. But pretty much that's how I approach anything, especially when I have the opportunity of collaborating with others and dreaming big, doing a lot with a little, which I kind of dislike. Then
Yeah.
funders don't want to give us more money.
Yeah. It's a great skill to have, but it's a skill we wish we didn't have to have.
Mhm.
Right? It's like, come on, this is good work. I know y'all have millions, like, you know, a little
Yep.
bigger cut.
It's going other places instead and wish it wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
I do like how even back in school you still wore many hats because you're just always like to have all the.
I will say I am a Sagittarius by the book. All the adventures. I want to pursue them all, and even if they're a micro adventure, I still want to grasp it.
Well,
I love that.
I think it's time now where we let you put on yet another hat and we let you be the podcast host. We've been asking you these questions the whole time, but we're about, 35 minutes in. So now it's your turn to turn the tides on us and ask us anything that you'd like.
Oh, well, I would love to hear, and maybe somebody else has asked this already, but what inspired you both to come together to create the space?
Greg, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
I was going to say you were sitting next to me at the trade show and I said, want to do a podcast. Like it was like two
This
seconds
is
of
true.
we were bored. No, I'll
That's
let you
the
go.
short version.
That's the very short version. Start us
It
off on
was
the
at
longer
OMS.
version.
Actually, Gabaccia, you were there. It was probably like, yeah, you were there. Yeah, I mean, not at that exact moment, but it was at OMS. We were sitting at the table but the thing is Greg and I are both really fascinated both by the, like, yeah, the outdoors, of course, but then also like the arts and like the way they intersect and the way we both know either personally or of so many people doing such cool things that intersect like between the outdoors and the arts and like are just like everybody has this a fascinating story. So we just thought it would be really fun to have a little platform where we get to talk to people doing cool things. That's my take.
And yeah, I think like when you're out on the trail, you pass people all day long, and everybody there has a story. And it's kind of like these are our trail stories where we get a chance to stop. And if you could stop and sit down and talk to every person that you pass on a trail, you would hear the most amazing stories in the world, and you'd find out about talents that you never knew existed. You'd like I ran into somebody once painting a mural or a nature picture, just like they were just sitting on the side of the trail. So there's so many fascinating people that you pass on a daily basis, and you never get a chance to sit down and talk to all of them. And this gives us our chance to it's in this format, but it gives you that chance. If we ran up to everybody, we'd never finish our hike. So like this is our chance to hear those stories, I guess, is kind of why I thought about doing it. And she was
That's
sitting
so
next to
cool.
me and I was like, you want to do a podcast,
I happen to be there.
Love to hear it. No, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And with that is has podcast always been part of y'all's background? Is this brand new? Why a podcast format?
It's brand new for me, but not Greg.
I had one a bit ago. I've been a guest on a bunch of them as well. And again, I think it's just that idea of being able to talk to people that you normally wouldn't get to talk to in everyday life is the reason I enjoy the format. I'm actually very introverted, not very introverted, but I'm an introvert. Like if I see somebody sitting across at a bench, I'm not going to strike up a conversation with them. Like I'm just going to sit down and do whatever. So this gives me a chance to actually talk to people, speak with. So that's
Yeah,
why I enjoy
same.
it.
Same. Yeah. I do like that we can I like the idea of rambling and not especially as a writer who also edits and
Yes.
like usually has to, keep things very like I like the idea of not having to edit like a conversation and
Nice.
just talk, and it be as long as it is and also the same. I don't approach people. I'm not particularly extroverted, but I do love people and I love hearing their stories. So this feels like an excuse to be like, oh, come on the podcast and then I can talk to you.
And one thing, like we're not very scripted on their podcast. I know some podcasts are very like scripted and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't know where the conversation's going to go. And I think that's what is nice for all of us is that it could start in one direction and go completely different. And it's not, we're not strict on how it goes. And I think, like you said with rambling, like it's just kind of like we saw a crossroad in a trail and we took the other trail. So it's like or a river that's just flowing, but it's going somewhere and we don't know where it's going to go, but we just want to be on there until the end. So that's what I like about.
Poetry.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Okay, my next question is in your journey of being into the outdoors, what is the biggest lesson that you have unlearned? Meaning you were taught something and then on your own you figure out that was not it at all?
Oh, that is such a good question. And I feel like I'm not gonna be able to think of the best answer right now, but I'm gonna try to think of a answer. Greg, do you have
I
an
have one. If
answer
you want me,
first?
I'll let you
Okay,
think
go
about it for a
ahead.
second, Becca. So I actually wrote a blog about this when I first started, and the blog was called "I Tried and I Failed, and That's Okay." Because I think so much in life we're told like you just have to keep going, keep going, keep going. But in nature, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble if you keep going. So to be able to go up, and I was trying to do a 13er at the time, and it was like my first 13, and I got like halfway up, and the weather came in, and I was like, I just didn't have the vibes, and I'm like, okay, it's time to turn around, and it's okay not to push all the way to the end. And that was a lesson that took me a minute to accept in myself. And it wasn't until I got back in the car that I was like, it's okay. That mountain is not, it's not leaving. It'll be here tomorrow. I can come back whenever and try to finish this. But it was like that just mentality of, you know, you have to succeed, that was so hard to get rid of, but it, like, in the end, it turned out for the best, because so many people get themselves in trouble because they're trying to do things that they probably shouldn't, or on a bad day, or they're injured and they want to push through, and it ends up hurting them. So that was a hard lesson, but it was a lesson that I think is really important.
That's a great answer. I agree with that totally. I think of like the books I read growing up of like explorers and adventurers and like all these people I idolized and like or like for climbing Mount Everest or whatever. And I feel like the lessons you take away from that are just like grit and like pushing through and yeah, and rather than seeing a mountain as something to conquer, I think
Mm.
that's a very problematic mindset. And so I think over the years I've noticed, um, or like I think even when I moved out to Colorado and I started hiking in the mountains more, that was something I noticed. Like one, a tendency to like go as fast as I could because that was kind of a mindset I had too of like if I'm outdoors, so this is like I gotta push hard for some reason, even though I could really just slow down and enjoy it and take everything in. But also, yeah, I think the idea of like you hear people talking about conquering a mountain, and I'm like, oh, it like makes me cringe now to even hear just to hear that phrasing. So yeah, I'd say that's like a big one of like, um, yeah, just even just the relationship I have to uh, the outdoors and like natural or what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. The geological features. I don't know. Rather than being a thing to like conquer, like to prove something about yourself, it's a place that's been there way before you, and you can just go there to enjoy and appreciate it.
I just came up with a line I got to throw out there: mountains are for collaborating, not for conquering. See
Ooh,
that? Poetry.
collaborating.
That
Poet. All right,
Yes.
poet. Okay, poet.
that's my writer brain
Someone's
going
on
right
fire
there.
today.
Well, we
We're
do have
writing
to.
poems in this podcast.
Well, we do have to take back the podcast. So thank you so much for those. Those were some of the best questions. But like now
Those are great.
you're gonna be the host, and we're gonna get kicked out of here. Um, but it doesn't mean that we're done with the podcast. We are. This is the. It's about to get serious, because now we're going to start our scrambling section. This is where the rubber hits the road right now. We have 3 minutes on the clock. There is a record of, I think, was it 18 or 19 answers?
19. Do you know? I don't know if you know Kai Burkhart, but Kai got
I
19,
got
so that's the
Wow,
19.
number
in
to beat.
3 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
they're
gosh.
rapid fire questions.
Most of them are
Yeah.
about trigonometry. So,
All right, I
Hope you
got this
brushed up.
then.
as mostly liberal arts students, none of us could figure out the answers. So just say whatever you want. I was stalling while
I'll
Becca got
answer in
her.
Spanish.
Perfect.
There you go. And we're like,
Perfect.
Because that's all
see.
my trigonometry experience, so all right.
It's more than mine. Becca, do you have? I saw you looking for your timepiece. Do you have the
I got
clock?
it.
Okay.
My timepiece, my phone.
Your
Yeah.
your old Timex over there. Um, Whenever you're ready, we'll let you start. You'll start the clock and ask the
Okay.
first question.
Okay. All right. Are you ready? Gabaccia.
As ready
You
as
ready?
I'll ever be.
Okay. Lovely. All right. Number one. Favorite ice cream flavor?
A strawberry cheesecake from Ben and Jerry's.
Do you like sunsets or sunrises better?
Sunrises.
Favorite tree?
The jacaranda.
We'll go with that. Breakfast or lunch?
Breakfast.
Ooh. Best outdoor smell?
Oh, the. Oh, gosh. Okay, it's a plant after the rain. In Spanish is the gobernadora.
Mm.
In English starts with an O. High
The Spanish
desert.
name is good enough.
Spanish works.
Yeah,
We love
there
the
we go.
Spanish name. Lovely.
Do you prefer oceans or mountains?
Mountains.
Worst outdoor smell?
Oh. Probably my own.
I feel that.
After a few miles, we're all there.
After 80 miles of no shower.
Yeah. Biggest L&T pet peeve? Leave no trace pet peeve.
People who did not prepare.
People who do not what?
Prepare.
Oh,
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
number one. Plan ahead and prepare. Mm-mm.
If you could be any animal, what would it be?
An ocelot.
Ooh.
Nice.
Best form of potato?
French fry.
Hard agree on that one. I'm running out of questions. You're too good at this. Fishing or hunting?
Fishing.
Dream travel destination?
Japan for skiing.
Live theater or movies?
Live theater.
Favorite breakfast food?
Anything with poached eggs.
Nice. And the time is up. That was 15, which is still good. That is good. Especially because you were very thoughtful in your answers.
It's my fault. I dropped the ball. I ran out of questions. We're doing these. You guys are too good at answering, so I keep screwing it up for you.
I have a
We
huge
forgive
list
you.
of random questions in front of me that I just look at.
You've got a question generator. You're cheating over there. Just
Nice.
Well, I did come up with them myself ahead of time, so.
fair.
my
Unlike the
questions.
intro.
See, she planned ahead and prepared.
I know, and I'm just the
Leave no
amateur
trace
here.
expert over here.
Do none of this. Gabaccia, where can we find you? Where can people find you? Where can people learn more about you? What do you want to promote?
Or, yeah, anything you want to promote.
Yes, well, I would love for people to connect with me on Instagram for now, because that's the platform where I'm the most active. But I'm curious about Substack and Upscrolled and that kind of stuff. But, for now, Instagram is where I spend most of my personal social media time. And that's just at Gabaccia, Gabaccia. And also at Outdoorist Oath, which is an organization that I've been a part of over the last 4 to 5 years. And we just launched a self-paced workshop that helps you create an action plan to support planet inclusion and adventure. And I would love anybody who wants to create positive change in their community to come check it out. It probably takes you anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour to complete. So it's just a very easy, accessible, approachable framework that you can then take and apply to create good trouble in your community.
I have taken an Outdoorist Oath workshop, and I highly recommend checking them out. They're great.
Troublemaker in the house.
Yes.
Yes. And lastly, please go to sign a letter of support at outdooropportunity.org, the Outdoor Opportunity Coalition. We want to get kids outside. I'm sure you want that too. And if not, you should go reconsider life. So come support that mission. We really need as many people behind this movement as we can get. So hope to count on this crew to support.
So thank you so much. Becca, you want to take us home?
Thanks so much, Gabaccia, for joining us today. This was so great. And yeah, that is our time for today. Thank you for listening to us ramble. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Instagram at Scrambling and Rambling Pod. At Scrambling Rambling Pod. But also, we are still in need of like a way better graphic. So if you can help us with that, feel free to contact us there or email us at scramblingandramblingpod@gmail.com. Until next time, enjoy your rambles.